Welcome back, everyone. This is Nicholas Bogart. I will be your host tonight because Tim says he has better things to do. But joining me tonight is Benjamin Galbraith of Homebrewed Worlds. Welcome, Benjamin.
Hello. Thank you.
So it totally threw me off because Benjamin earlier told me that he was located in Dallas, Texas. So it was really a big surprise because all of a sudden he's like, "Hello," and I went,
You were expecting a southern drawl, but instead you got this Aussie accent.
"Yeah." I mean, my wife's from Texas, and I've been to Texas a few times. Kind of know what a Texas accent sounded like, and I'm
Yep.
like, "That's not Texas."
Yep, it definitely isn't. It throws a lot of people off, especially since I'm not used to having to tell people that I'm from Australia yet. So it sort of will either just throw people off and they'll just give me this really weird look, or they'll just ignore it and they'll be like, "Okay, well that's a thing." So
Yeah, you said you've only been in the States a little over a year now.
yeah, I moved here in February of last year and got married to a just Texan woman. And yeah, Dallas is my home now. So still getting
Awesome.
used to everyone saying y'all 24/7. I really don't say it yet at all. Unless I'm talking to my friends back home, I'll start throwing it into random sentences to see how they start reacting. Yeah, no, it's been a blast. I love it here. Um, I visited my wife a couple of times previously, and yeah, I really liked Dallas. I really liked Texas. You know, Texans are just some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Um, and really happy to move here.
Awesome. So you have a custom terrain company that you run, Homebrewed Worlds. How did
That
that
is
start?
correct. Yes. Um, it's sort of a funny story. I guess, like a lot of things in this industry, um, it's sort of happened by accident, I guess. When you speak to a lot of people that run these small niche businesses, they'll always say, "Well, I just started doing it on the side, and then it grew into a business." I've been doing this for less than a year. Um, I've been a gamer for a long, long time. I've been collecting miniatures since, oh man, I can't even remember, since I was a young kid. And I've always loved miniatures of all kinds. But tabletop gaming I really liked because I guess it's not like building sort of like model kits like tanks, cars, and stuff, in a sense that you can have your miniatures, but you can also kind of play a game on them, and you can also, I guess, tell a story in some ways. So I think that's kind of what drew me to tabletop gaming. But I guess the aspect of this particular hobby that I always loved was making terrain. So I guess over the years, it's just something that I got fairly good at. And when I moved here, I had quite a few months before I had my employment authorization. So I was sort of like, well, I guess I'm just going to paint a lot of miniatures and just do that sort of thing. And
So,
then once I was able to work, I put a few things on eBay, and then I guess there I got a couple of small commissions. And I noticed my stuff was selling quite well, and it's sort of, I guess, a lot of things, kind of the light bulb went off in my head, and I was sort of like, oh, maybe there's something to this. And I knew there was some people out there doing custom terrain work. And it was sort of a little bit after that I actually contacted Ash Barker at Guerrilla Miniature Games, who I'm sure you know. I think he was on a previous episode.
he was. And
Yeah.
he's actually how I knew about you.
Oh, right. Yeah. See, it's funny how that works out. Ash is a really good guy, and I actually owe a lot of my early success to his YouTube channel, because I contacted him and he had just started playing Mordheim. I think he'd put up maybe 1 or 2 episodes. And Mordheim is probably my favorite game of all time. I love that game because I really like games that require a lot of terrain. And I contacted him and I was like, oh, hey, I noticed getting into Mordheim. Do you want some free terrain? And he was like, yeah, for sure. So I made up a couple of buildings, sent them over to him. And he really liked them. And straight away I got a couple of messages on Facebook, a couple of emails, just people like, I really like what you did for him. Can you do something similar? And so I sent him a few more buildings because I kind of was like, well, going to have some of my stuff. It might as well be table. And kind of that was really what, I guess, I'll say put me on the map, I suppose. And I was just getting emails a week from people. And I think it's because at the moment those specialist games are kind of going through a bit of a revival. There's not many companies out there that are making terrain that's suitable for that sort of thing. And then it's kind of just growing from there, really. So I suppose to sum it up, I guess that sort of word of mouth advertising has kind of helped me grow this really small business of mine. And I don't really know where it's going to go from here, but I'm kind of just along for the ride, I guess.
Along for the ride can definitely be fun. So
It sure is.
do you actually work any other full-time job, or is this your full-time job right now?
Yeah, I don't. At the moment, I'm doing this full time. And I say for the moment, which is, because I've only been here a year, a little over a year, and because I've only been married a short amount of time, I don't really know what's in store for me and my life here. So, it's full time at the moment, and it's actually doing really well at the moment, but, it's easily something that I could swap to doing part time if I had to, if the right job came along, thing like that. But I'm sort of in the situation now where I'm kind of at my limit with the amount of work that I can produce just as like a one-man team. So I think at some point I'm going to hit this sort of wall where I'm either going to need to hire an assistant, or I'm just going to need to be totally okay with being a one-man team and try and sort of figure out a business plan that works around that. But I'm certainly not complaining about the amount of business that I'm getting. It's just more when you're sort of running a small business like this, especially as a freelance artist, it's kind of can be tricky to sort of figure out what course you want to chart with it,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Managing a business is definitely a challenge. I've started and run a couple, and it's definitely been a challenge.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of interesting because I studied after I finished high school. I studied theater design, so I actually studied set and costume design for 3 years, and I did that for a couple of years after I graduated. So I'm kind of used to being a freelance artist designer, and this is kind of very similar to that. But what I really love about this work is that, people are essentially, I'd say probably 90% of my customers have kind of just said to me, hey, I want some terrain. Just here is some money, and I just want you to make something that's really cool for me. So I really love that because to me, it's really nice that someone's willing to kind of trust you and trust your skills and I guess your artistic vision and sort of be like, just make me something cool, So I guess it's kind of really awesome for me because it's the first time that I've really had that as an artist.
That is pretty awesome. So you said you did theater and set design before this?
Yeah, I studied that for 3 years, back home in Adelaide, and then I did that sort of freelance for a couple of years. Then life took me in different directions, I guess.
So now that we've talked a little bit about where your history is and kind of how Homebrewed Worlds came about, what kind of terrain do you produce?
Well, it's kind of funny because a lot of people will ask me that, and I respond with anything. You know, I offer a service to a client that can essentially produce any kind of terrain for any kind of game. At the risk of sounding cocky, I definitely don't want to come across as being sort of, oh, I can do whatever, like anything. I guess, like, I have skills that can be easily placed in different scales and games and stuff like that. Primarily, though, I do a lot of terrain for Warhammer 40,000, Fantasy, Mordheim, Frostgrave, games like that. So 28mm is kind of my go-to scale, and that's the one that I'm more than happy to say that I'm the most skilled at. But I've been doing some for Alt Action, done a little bit of Flames of War stuff, so I can really do whatever people want me to do, to be honest. I like to kind of say that my service is essentially if you were to go and get a bespoke suit from a tailor, I like to try and give people that experience, essentially. I mean, if someone emails me and says, hey, I just want terrain for Warhammer 40,000, do whatever you want, I'm fine with that. But if they want a more customized experience where I can produce some designs, some sketches, whatever the client wants, really. And that's fun for me, too.
It definitely sounds like fun. I know I emailed you kind of right after I saw your train. I think Ash did a Widgets and Wonders on it. It was like one of his first ones, saying, "Hey, Ben emailed me. Then he sent me this stuff, and look at it. It's pretty cool, and we're using it for Mordheim."
Yeah.
And a little bit for Frostgrave. And I've seen it, and it does. It looks absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I have a lot of fun making stuff for people, and it sounds really cheesy, but I often like to say, I'm transforming one gaming table at a time, and that's it. Like I just said, it sounds really cheesy, but essentially that's what I really like doing. I'm not in this for the money. I'm not in this to make the big bucks. And I like to try and keep my pricing fair, and kind of not overcharge for stuff. But for me, it's just I get enjoyment out of seeing my clients happy at the end of the day. And I really like seeing when they send me photos. Oh, hey, I had a game on this weekend, and friends all loved it, and we just had a blast. Because it's often a lot of people don't realize how much good terrain impact your enjoyment of a game until they play on a really good gaming table. And it's almost like night and day when you take your miniatures and you play on, say, for example, people that have just thrown some stuff together and they've got some unpainted GW plastic kits on there, and and that's fine. Like, hey, if you just want to roll some dice, that's I've played on that kind of stuff all the time. But if you're playing on a really good board, it kind of just makes the game or the experience that much intense.
It definitely does. And it's one of those things where even the well painted armies. I'm very notorious for playing with the Gray Tide because until recently, I haven't been the greatest painter. In the last year and a half, my skills have really started to mature. And
Yeah.
you can ask Ash and Owen on the previous episode. I was trying to say that I had, stepped up in the world of being able to paint stuff, and especially Owen, all he latched onto is when I said it took me, used to take me like an hour to paint a Space Marine. He's like, I painted 100 guys in an hour.
Well, see, I'm a big believer of just have a go, just whatever works for you. Like, a lot of people message me and email me, oh, how did you make this? How did you get good at terrain making? And my response is often, I mean, unless they're asking me how I did something specifically, then I'm happy to tell them. But often I'm just like, look, just get some stuff and start making, because that's how you learn. And that's the same with painting miniatures. Exactly the same. Just have a go. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. At the end of the day, they're your miniatures. You can paint them to whatever standard that you enjoy. And it's exactly the same with terrain. Whatever you are happy with using or doing is exactly the same. Just whatever works for you,
Yeah, but then again, I've seen some of those pictures of like Warhammer World, or there's a Hobbytown USA near where I'm at here in Georgia, and they have I think it was an Adepticon winner for a terrain piece, and I mean the thing's just magnificent. I'm like, if I played on this, I don't know if I could ever play anywhere else ever again. It's just because once you see something that has skill, love, and just time put into it, you're struck with, this is really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. I'm still like that. Every time there's a major convention like Adepticon or Salute, or even pictures from Warhammer World, I'm just like, and I pore over those images. I'm like, man, armies are so good, the terrain is so awesome, and I just love seeing people put passion into their hobby, and that's exactly what I'm doing with this. I'm just putting passion into what I'm making. I love what I'm doing, and essentially, I think anytime someone puts passion or love into something they're doing, it shows. And you can see that in all aspects of this industry. With people's games, a guy like Ash Barker who's making that Guerrilla Miniature games, you can tell these are people that just love what they do. And I think as long as you show that, and especially I think gamers are really good at picking up on that when someone has such love and passion for their small business or their little miniatures line or their little rule set, people love that, and they'll support it too. That's what I found.
Definitely. Having Ash on the episode, the interesting part was, we were interacting with him and Owen was there, because the best part about Owen being there was, as Ash was saying something, every now and again Owen would quip with, but remember this, or what about this? And having the interaction with them, it felt a lot like in Ash sits down and he does his monthly sit and talk. It felt a lot like one of his sit and talks, but even a little bit more real. Not just answering everyone's questions, but getting into the questions and then just following the path even more than he does with his sit and talks. It was, and you felt his passion.
Exactly. And, I think a guy like Ash is basically the best example of this kind of almost like this meta the gaming industry's in at the moment, which is like people are now willing to support something directly, and we see that time and time again through Kickstarters, through Indiegogo campaigns, that people are like, I like what this guy does. I want that to be successful, and I'm willing to put money into it, And I think that also has something to do with the fact that there's think on the whole, a lot of people that are into tabletop gaming have disposable income. That's not a fairly broad statement, but something I've noticed anyway. And I think that's kind of just part of why, because it's a luxury product. Like, don't really. I think it was Ash that said in one of his things, people don't need miniatures. Like, don't need them to survive. So it's a luxury product, and people are always willing to put more money into this hobby. And I've just seen time and time again, constantly, time after time, there's been games, products, there's been YouTube channels that are managed to kind of been created from nothing just through generosity of the community. And although I am running a business that is kind of a bit different to that, I've noticed that because people have been willing to commission me just out of what they've seen on Ash's channel or Facebook or word of mouth. They're like, hey, I'll give this guy a go. Seems to do some good work. And I think it's great.
It definitely is, and I agree. I believe that was Ash. And you're right. Even as I look at my desk that is absolutely full of minis, I've got... It's kind of started flowing out of the room I have in our basement. It's kind of going into the little... There's a little kind of kitchenette down here. It's kind of started flowing in there. And there's a bunch of stuff that Tim gave me last night that's sitting on the counter upstairs.
It'll keep growing.
Oh, it definitely does. And right now the wife doesn't live with us. It's me and my sons. She's still finishing her job in Florida, so she comes down every other weekend when she has off, and she kind of tries to just avoid not looking down here. Because she's just like...
Were these boxes here last time I was here? I don't really remember.
Exactly. Classic. I don't think that was here. And ironically, just before we started, there was the little comic strip that the wife's walking out the door and the father and son are sitting there and they're playing with the X-Wing miniature game. And she's like, you boys have fun and, don't get into too much trouble. He's like, nah, we just got the core set to X-Wing. We'll be good. And then she goes, that sounds suspiciously like there's more.
That's so true, though.
And he goes, nah, it's just a casual game. And then, the next frame has him sitting there in like a Rebel pilot outfit with all these models all around him. And she's standing there staring at him going, and he just goes, I don't know what has happened.
Yeah, I think everyone that's into this hobby, or any hobby really, they sort of have that moment where they're like, I've taken it too far, And I think when I was younger, I used to blow so much money on buying miniatures. Because when you're young and you don't have any responsibilities, if you've got that little bit of disposable income, like, oh, I'm going to just buy myself a new army, or I'm just going to buy this box of miniatures. And man, I must have had almost one of each 40k army at some point in my life. Like a good friend of mine, back home in Adelaide, like he always likes to make fun of me for that. Whenever we're talking, I'm like, yeah, I think I had a Tau army once. I think I had something, because I was the kind of person, like, I'm not a huge gamer, but I really enjoy building armies and having the odd game. But I was always, I've got this really cool idea, and I'd just go out and buy all this stuff and then build this army and paint it, and then I would kind of put it away, and then I would just sell it at a later date, and he always used to just be so shocked that I would just sell off these entire armies on eBay. Like, how can you sell that? I had this pre-Heresy World Eaters army that I did. This was a long, long time ago, before like pre-Heresy was even a thing, and converted all these Space Marines, and I converted all the Cataphracti Terminators, and I even made like a I got like the pre-heresy rhino and I made it out of plastic card and paper and all this like card stuff, and I just sold it on eBay when I got sick of it. How could you do that? It was such a cool army. I was like, well, I've got something else to do. So yeah, definitely been an impulse of mine over the years. These days, though, I keep things very tight. Buy something and then I paint it, and then I buy something else afterwards. Very good with that.
Would that be because of the apartment living you mentioned before? The wife can keep an eye on what you've bought?
No, she's very supportive of my hobbies, actually. I could buy way more than what I am now, but I think it's more just that I've been there and I've done that aspect of tabletop miniatures. I've had tons of armies and I've just bought tons of stuff. These days I get more enjoyment out of, and I think because I don't have as much time to work on miniatures, I'm mostly working on projects for clients, that I guess I get more enjoyment out of working on like one army. I'll do it bit by bit. Right now I'm working on a pre-heresy Empress Children army for myself.
Nice. And
I bought a lot of really nice Forge World stuff. So I guess to me now it's more like quality over quantity.
That's not a bad thing, and you're right. There are definitely the stages of gamer. I definitely haven't gotten out to shiny. Bye.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I lied to the wife and told her I didn't have anything else on pre-order.
Oh, she knows now. She listens to this.
That's the nice part. She doesn't seem to. At least none of the admissions that I've had.
This will be the one time she listens to your podcast.
Quite possibly. Hey, honey, I had someone who said something nice about Texas on my show. Wait.
Was he living in Texas? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think every gamer experiences. I mean, I still have moments where I'm like, I guess it honestly goes back to that I'm just so busy these days working on work for people. I'm lucky if I can finish a model a week, and I guess I'm also the kind of person that I will sometimes feel guilty if I'm working on something for myself. I'm like, well, I could be doing this and getting paid for it, or I could be making something to sell on eBay, and so that's definitely a problem of mine at the moment.
Yeah, but for some reason I don't see any spouse complaining about that. Oh, you want to work more and make more money instead of buying that miniature? No, honey, don't do it.
It's funny because we both of us work really hard. My wife works a really intense job, and this has kind of been almost like biggest blessing for us as a newly married couple, because I'm essentially working from home, but it's also the kind of work that whenever she has a day off, I can also just take the day off. So for our first year of marriage, we've had tons of time together, way more than what we would be able to if I was working a job, So that's been really, really good. And it's also the kind of work that I can do. I can just do a little bit here and then a little bit there, and then we can go out and do something, and then so that's been really, really good.
That is definitely that's really awesome.
Yeah.
I was married for 2.5 months, and then we were separated for 6 months. So I definitely know how interesting and rough that can go, because she went to Germany and I went to Mississippi.
Wow. And that's probably almost as far away as my wife and I were in Adelaide, Australia, and Dallas, Texas. The whole long distance thing. Crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely rough, and we've done things like that since. I mean, we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Being apart. But it is
Absence
nice,
makes the
and
heart grow fonder. That's what my mum
generally.
always used to say to me.
Now I've just got little pieces of plastic to keep me company.
Yeah, that's all you need for now. Um,
The
yeah, it was
way.
funny actually. I got a funny story. When I moved here, I didn't bring a whole lot with me. I just packed a couple of suitcases and came over. Because I left all of my stuff with my parents. I was like, hey, you guys can send me stuff. Um, and at the time, I was working on a really nice high elf army for Warhammer Fantasy, and this is a little bit before they ditched fantasy for Age of Sigmar. And so before I left, I packed all my hobby stuff up into some nice little boxes. I had a box with all my hobby supplies, so all my miniature paints, my brushes, all that sort of thing. Then I had another box with my army that I was working on, a few other things. And then I had a third box that was full of bits, like models that I hadn't built, really rare models that I'd collected over the years. And then I just said, Mum, I'll tell you when to send those to me. And so she posted them off, and then I got the box full of all my paints. The other two boxes never arrived.
Oh.
My entire High Elf army disappeared. I recently just got it. That probably about 3 months ago. It was mostly destroyed, but I was able to piece it back together. But the third box, full of tons of like out of production Citadel miniatures, just random bits, things like that, disappeared. It's never been seen again. So if anyone is listening in and worked for customs and they stole my box, shame on you. If you're the USPS employee that dropped it off the back of a truck, shame on you. So
Definitely.
mad.
Oh man, that's heartbreaking.
The
Um,
one, the one box of miniatures though that was in my sort of hobby supplies one was the Mordheim Sisters of Sigmar warband that I managed to collect years ago. Traded it, I think, for some bid from a guy. And those are really rare, and they're actually worth a fair bit. So I was happy to get those. I was like, hey, I'm like, I can see the silver lining in this. At least I got this much.
that's that's good. That's better than my story, and some of the people may have already heard this, but so last year GW released the range of Skitarii and Adeptus Mechanicus, right?
Yeah.
I bought at least two of everything, and for some of them, I bought even more.
Wow.
All said and done, it was probably about $1,500 investment. So I had that, and I went onto the local Facebook group for where I was at in Florida, and I went, "Hey, really busy with work. I'd like to get these painted. Anyone do some commissions?" So I had a guy go, "Yeah, hey, I do commissions." Everyone else was kind of full up and booked, so talked to the guy. We agreed. We met. I gave him all of the stuff and a down payment deposit, and I've never seen my models again.
Did he just rip you off, or they just did it in the post?
No, no, no. He and I met, and I physically gave them to him. Um, so
Wow.
his side of the story, when I went to the cops and went, "All right, I've asked for this back. Here's a list of everything I gave. Here's our conversation back and forth. Here's me just saying, just bring it back. Here's all his excuses, and then here's him saying, I left it at the door of your house."
What? That's a that's an excuse? Oh man, that's enraging. I
Ah,
think anyone that runs a commissions business, myself included, would be raging right now. That's
uh,
almost like
yeah, there's
Makes my blood boil.
There's definitely a few people who are commission painters that I've told, and yeah, they definitely are not happy about it, and
yeah, that's disgusting. If he's listening right now, everyone that's listening to this hates you right now, mate. Hands down. No, it's there's definitely some times in the past with commissioning services that have lent a bad name to them. Because I guess this is sort of like a niche within a niche within a niche, you know, like we're people that, when I say we, I'm talking about people that paint miniatures, businesses that do terrain, you know, custom stuff.
right.
There's been some people that have been ripped off by businesses in the past, and it's a real shame because, you know, most of the people that do this kind of work, they just love doing it. And yeah, that's a real shame, man. Real shame.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate, and well, yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Always some bad eggs in every basket.
yeah, and unfortunately, I gave the really bad egg a really good payday.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever actually heard of something like a story that horrific. I think that's probably the most horrific story I've ever heard when it comes to like commission. You know, people getting ripped off by commission.
Woohoo!
Did you
Now I
put
get a
his
title.
details on public forums and stuff?
I have not gone out and totally publicly shamed him. No.
Should do that. Should definitely do that.
Um, but then again, I say I haven't totally public shamed him, but almost anytime commission painting comes up, I like to tell my story.
I think it's worth. Like, I'm the kind of person that I think it's worth telling horror stories about this kind of thing because there's definitely those out there that will rip you off, and I think if anyone that is listening, thinking about commissioning someone to paint their miniatures, to make them terrain, do your research. You know, make sure they're properly vetted, and you know, ask to ask to even speak to people that have commissioned them in the past, I guess. Like, anyone that wants to commission me, do anything, message a guy like Ash and ask him if I'm legit, you know. They can message me and ask to speak to any of my previous clients. I'd be more than happy to do that, you know. Because at the end of the day, you know, some people pay a lot of money to have custom work. And yes, it would be a pretty lucrative target to some scammers, you know.
Yeah, because
Shame.
like at this point now I have moved out of the area, so
Yeah.
my only recourse right now is an actual civil suit. I finally, after I had left it with the police for a couple months, called them and said, "Hey, do you have a report for this?" And the officer I actually spoke with, he said, I explained it all, filled out the report for him. Had a little bit of hope because he's like, I'm gonna go talk to this guy, da 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 da. And then I get the report and he's like, I phoned this person. He said he left it at their house. No longer a police issue because he said, now it becomes a domestic or whatever. Civil.
Yeah, I
So,
guess.
so
Yeah,
my
suing them in civil.
exactly, I would have to sue them, and actually, it wouldn't even be small claims court, even. So, then it's
Yeah.
a lawyer or not. Then having to travel to
It's just a
Florida,
shame.
and
Yeah, it's a shame that, you know, especially if you can't do it in small claims court, that it's like it becomes not worth it to get your property back, and that's really upsetting.
right, because what's the likelihood of A, me getting my property back, or B, even getting the money to replace what I lost.
Yeah. Man, I would punch that guy in the face.
It's a quite a strong likelihood that may or may not occur if I ever see him again.
Yeah.
I purposely I was back in Florida a couple weeks ago, and someone's like, "You've got his address. Let's go to his house and confront him." I'm like, "No, I don't want to go to jail."
That's how you get shot.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you get shot. I don't want to go to jail. They're like, "Why would you go to jail?" I'm like, "Because the moment he said something, I would probably deck him in the mouth."
Yeah. Man, you've got way more self-control than most other people. Goes to you, man. I don't even know what I would do. Never been ripped off that bad before. Crazy.
Yeah. So, you talked about that you have, you slowly do your armies and don't play a lot of games. What games are you playing, or what armies are you working on right now?
Well, I mentioned earlier I'm working on a Emperor's Children army. Very slowly. I've recently finished painting 2 Mordheim warbands, because that's a game that I had a few warbands in the past that I kind of half-heartedly did, but this time I was like, I'm going to finally paint up that Sisters of Sigmar box set that I've had sitting forever, and I'm also going to buy a Witch Hunter warband. So I have 2 warbands, so I can play with my wife, and I can teach a few people locally how to play it. So I did that, and I spent ages painting those. I painted those 2 warbands to a really high standard, which I was pretty happy about. And that's kind of all I'm working on at the moment. The games that I like playing the most probably would be Mordheim, of course. Played a little bit of Frostgrave, really like that. I'm just getting into This Is Not a Test, because I'm actually working on a display table for Joseph for his game. So we'll see that probably... Oh, and it slipped my mind. Is it Historicon? He's going to a convention of middle of this year. Commissioned me to do a really nice board for him for that. So that's going to be a really cool project, but I'm sort of just teaching myself how to play that. That's an awesome game, by the way. If anyone hasn't played This Is Not a Test, then you ain't lived.
Actually, Joey was our guest last week.
Oh, that's right, he was, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to that episode yet.
And actually, he sent out the surveys for his Kickstarter. He sent it out last night, and I filled it out today. And I was like number 6 on his on the list. And
awesome.
You know, for originally backing, so I got one of the nice packages.
Oh, nice.
And so then I was looking at it today, and he's like, "You can add this, and you can add this, and you can get more of these." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." And I'm like going to add, I'm like, "No, I kind of promised the wife I would cut back." Bite my hand.
An addiction. There needs to be a Miniatures Gaming Anonymous, I think. Miniatures
there probably
Buying
is.
Anonymous.
There probably
plastic.
is.
I mean, they call it plastic crack. No, but I mean, you know, I'm the kind of person when it comes to gaming, I really like casual gaming. Competitive gaming is not really my thing at all. It's not that I don't enjoy a evenly matched game. I do, but I think it's just my mind doesn't really work that way. Just a beer and pretzels type gamer.
Right.
And I really enjoy board games as well. My all-time favorite board game is Battlestar Galactica. I give that one a 10 out of 10. If anyone out there has not played Battlestar Galactica, the board game, then you're in for a treat. Yeah, I think that's about it. As for what I'm currently working on commission-wise, I mentioned the This Is Not a Test project that I'm doing. I'm also just finishing up a display board for a really amazing client. He has a really cool Kings of War army. He wanted a nice display board to take it to tournaments and stuff. So I'm just finishing that off right now. It's probably going to be done in the next. I've probably got maybe a half a day's work on it, putting some LEDs and stuff in there. So that's going to be really nice. And I'm doing some. See, I've got quite a few projects that are sort of in a queue at the moment that I haven't been able to start yet because I'm fully booked up. I'm doing some desert terrain, that's right, for bolt action for another client. And there's a lot of other projects that have to, unfortunately, be put in a queue.
Hey, you know what? I would have to say that's not a bad thing. Being busy and
it's
having
very good.
Lots of work.
Look, I'll tell you what, if I could do every project at once, I would. The kind of person that it's almost physically painful to me when someone emails me and they're like, oh, hey, can you do this project? I'm like, oh, that sounds so awesome. And I'm like, I want to work on it now. But, I really have to keep a strict, I work on a first come, first served basis. If you contact me and pay your deposit before someone else, then you have your product finished before someone. So that's worked for me up until now. Like I said, if I manage to figure out a way to hire an assistant or something, then maybe I might be able to produce more work. But unfortunately, it's only as much as this one guy can do at a time.
So, are you doing this all out of your apartment?
I am. It's all on the kitchen table. Which is why so many of my photos are just like kitchen bench, kitchen sink. It's funny, I really didn't think this would be as successful as it has, so I've really had to adapt my working style to working in an apartment. And I'm very careful how I work. I mean, we have a garage here, so if I need to spray things or if I need to do large things, then I'll go down and do it there, or I'll go out on our balcony and I'll do that sort of thing. And I should do a video about this, actually. I've kind of managed to figure out how to store everything and have all of my terrain making stuff basically tailored to apartment living. So we have a very tiny little laundry, which is basically like a box that we have our washing machine and dryer in. And I've kind of just got one shelf, and I've put everything into plastic crates, and then I've got a couple of other little spots that I keep plastic crates. So I've kind of figured out a method to how I store my stuff, which I don't know if anyone else does that. They live in apartments, I don't know, but it works for me. So.
Oh, I'm guessing there's plenty of people that have learned how to stow stuff away. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them.
Well, I've always had the luxury of, when I lived at home with my parents, my dad's an artist, so he had a large studio, and I've always had large workspaces. But I realized here is you don't need that much space to do miniatures. I mean, if I'm doing terrain, I'm usually pretty good with not taking over the entire house. And one thing is I always make sure I clean up before my wife gets home. I realized living in a one-bedroom apartment, if I didn't do that, we would get overwhelmed very quickly. So I've sort of made that deal that I would clean up every evening before she gets home. Then we have dinner together and that sort of thing.
That's awesome.
I managed to keep things pretty neat and tidy.
Excellent. That's always good to hear. So, now that we've hopefully stirred up some people's interest in getting any kind of fantasy or science fiction terrain, I did see that you recently finished. Somebody actually sent you a bunch of terrain just to paint for them?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really awesome guy. Um, Sent me. It was kind of a double part commission, 1,000 terrain, and I painted his infinity terrain for him. Um, and that's something else that I can do as well. So if people have MDF kits that they want done, paint those up for them.
Yeah, so you'll do custom paint jobs, you'll do a complete custom train set for them.
Yep.
You'll do full tables, you'll do partial tables. It's just as they need it. You'll sketch,
Yeah.
you'll
I mean, it's really whatever they want, really. I know that's not the best answer, but it's really whatever your dream terrain is, and have it made by me, I guess. And I mean, unless they want some ginormous 20 by 4 table that's all sculpted, I mean, some things are a little impractical, ship or freight. But the boards that I've done, I usually do in 2-foot by 2-foot sections, and I pack those up and send them off. Most people, though, just get me to do freestanding terrain for them. Yeah, basically whatever you want, I can do.
Awesome. So, now that they have this interest, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, right now the best way that you can get a hold of me is on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Homebrewed Worlds. You can send me a message on there, or you can find my email address, my other contact details on my Facebook page. But I generally find Facebook's the best way because often when you're doing a project like this, there's a lot of backwards and forwardsing, and I find that Facebook's usually just the easiest way to do that because it can basically be like a conversation.
Awesome. So that was facebook.com/Homebrewed Worlds.
And you can also find a lot of photos of my previous work on there, so you can kind of have a look at what I've done for other clients. Something I should mention, though, that a lot of people don't realize is I actually never make the same project twice. That's a pretty big deal for me. I'll explain that briefly. The way I see it is if you're going to have someone make you something custom, that it should be yours and yours only. I'll do something that is somewhat similar. Like if someone wants a snow-themed terrain, it doesn't mean I'll never make snow-themed terrain ever again, but I'll never copy another commission for another client, and I won't ever copy another artist's work. So if you'd like to commission me to do something totally 100% custom, contact me and we can have a chat.
Excellent. And a couple other little details, because this is normally where Tim would say, and Nick, do you have anything else? I'd normally say no, but then I realized I've been forgetting some things, and actually I think he also recorded them for this episode. So you'll be hearing it twice. You can find us, Skirmish Supremacy, on Facebook. We're facebook.com/Skirmish Supremacy. We also have a online group for everyone to join, chat with us, post your work, whatever you're doing, show us your projects, tell us about your stuff, anything you want. Nearly. Let's keep it related to the hobby. But you can find that. That's Skirmish Supremacy Street Team. And once again, facebook.com/Skirmish Supremacy Street Team. We are on Twitter. I need to get a little bit more active, but that is at Skirmish Supreme. And we've talked about putting up an Instagram. That'll probably also end up being at Skirmish Supreme. It's not up yet. I'll try and get to it soon. You can email us. It'll be tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com with your comments, your thoughts. If you want to come on the show, if you want to show us something, once again, let's keep that hobby related. Never know what people will do if we don't say that.
Yeah, this is the internet. You never know.
It is definitely the internet. Benjamin, it has been great having you on. It's been a good conversation.
Thank you very much.
Forward
I've
to
loved
seeing...
it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What was that?
I just kept talking over you, so...
Oh, no, sorry. As I said, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I will probably be sending you a commission at some point. Like I said, I talked to you previously, and at that point, it wasn't 100% feasible for me. But hopefully, here in the near future, I can beg the wife that she says yes.
It is an investment for some.
It is an investment, but from everything I've seen, all the pictures you posted, the stuff I see on Ash's page, she's been using that for almost a year now. And it's still going strong, so...
Yeah, it's a lot of... Anytime you want some custom stuff, just let me know. My door is always open. My internet door, that is. Please don't come to my apartment and open my door.
All right. So, his internet door is always open, not his actual door. All right, folks, you have a good night. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.